20 years. That's how long fans, 20 years. That's how long fans waited for Marvel and DC to finally team up again. Batman, Deadpool, not exactly the crossover everyone was asking for. But with Greg Capullo on art, there was hope that Deadpool Batman #1 would be something worth talking about. Instead, Marvel handed writing duties to Zeb Wells, destroyer of Spider-Man and creator of Paul, and shocker, he delivers what everyone feared. Deadpool reads like a bad open mic routine. Tired pedo gags that nobody laughed at the first time, cringy meta commentary, and reheated leftovers out of every Deadpool Wolverine crossover of the past decade. $7 for a comic that proves DC should avoid Marvel for another 20 years at this point. I do want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video in the channel, the 616 Comics. If you hadn't checked out their website or app, they got amazing covers, including on this issue right here. Go there. You can get 10% off using the discount code in the video description. We will start out with the art from Greg Capullo, which promised to be the high note of the book and certainly delivers that. Not surprising because Greg Capullo is an absolute Batman legend, but there is something just a little bit missing here. It doesn't look quite as good as when Greg Capullo was at DC Comics. For one, I think the inker does Greg Capullo no favors. They go overboard on the inking and remove a lot of the character that Greg Capullo's art just naturally has to it, and it doesn't look quite as gritty and grim and cool as we normally expect on a Greg Capullo Batman comic book. Also, the colorist on here, I guess there was some type of fallout between Greg Capullo and his normal color artist, FCO Placencia, and Alex Sinclair steps in. And Alex Sinclair is amongst the best color artists in the entire industry, but he's not able to make the art pop quite like FCO Placencia did before. It's still very good, but it's not quite great like we're used to expecting. Greg Capullo has never been the most experimental layout guy, but his cinematic style and flair is absolutely present throughout the entire comic book, changing angles all the time. The dynamic style that Greg Capullo brings to Batman and certainly Deadpool here is still present throughout, but it is mostly people talking, and there's only so much that even a legend like Greg Capullo can do with 28 pages of mostly talking head segments throughout the book. But the art is certainly not the problem. It's the high point, at least of the Deadpool Batman story itself, and I'll score it a 4 out of 5. It's a job well done, but it certainly would have been better with his normal color artist and a better inker. When we move over to the Zeb Wells aspects of the comic book, this is where it really starts to fall flat. Specifically, the Deadpool-Batman relationship. The crossover kicks off with Deadpool barging into Wayne Manor, and the very first gag is a limp masturbation joke about Bruce in a silk robe with his laptop. That's Zeb Wells' idea for a historic crossover opener. Then right on cue, Deadpool asks Bruce Wayne if he wants to hire him to kill somebody, because apparently all billionaires are just murderers in waiting. It's lazy, juvenile. The voice specifically that Zeb Wells has for Deadpool is insufferable. There are worse out there. Cody Ziegler, I'm looking at you, but it is particularly bad. And instead of sharp banter or a creative clash, Batman's stoicism versus Deadpool's chaos, we just get a string of tired one-liners that don't ever really land. And because Wells can't resist bottom feeding, he throws in the cheapest Batman gag of all, the Batman must be a pedophile because of Robin joke. The same tired garbage internet trolls have been running into the ground for the last decade. Not particularly clever, not really edgy, more pathetic than anything. There are a couple of moments where Bruce Wayne Batman shines, but it's all drowned out by the non-stop one-liners of Deadpool throughout. I will give the characterization on the book, and I'm being very generous here, a 1 out of 5, complete fail. When we get to the plot, it's more of the same when it comes to Zeb Wells failing the assignment. And it starts on page 1. Bruce does what Bruce always does. He starts connecting the dots. There's missing shipments, stolen chemicals, botanical toxins. The conclusion, Joker's brewing enough venom to wipe out a small country. Classic Batman deduction. He's already mapped out the threat before it even happens, because that's who Batman is. So that part makes sense. And then Zeb Wells makes him say, nights like tonight, you never know what's coming. They come without warning. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Batman just spelled out exactly what's coming. He literally sussed out the entire fucking plot, and then Wells has him talk like he's freaking clueless. It's like watching Sherlock Holmes solve a case and then shrug and say, but hey, anything could happen here, folks. And it's this kind of shitty writing that we all suspected and feared would be prevalent in this comic book, and it's definitely there. From there, we learn that Deadpool is looking for Batman, apparently not realizing that it's Bruce Wayne, but then the bat signal goes up, so he goes to investigate that, allowing Batman to get in the bat costume, knowing that Deadpool is hunting for Batman. He shows up, confronts him. Jim Gordon confirms what Batman already set out with the Joker talking and stuff, and then all of a sudden Deadpool decides he's going to team up with the Batman. And that's where we get the big twist. Deadpool wasn't helping Batman. He was working with Joker the whole time. It's the same recycled gotcha Deadpool plot Marvel had been shoving out for a decade straight. I hope Marvel Comics didn't actually pay Zeb Wells extra money because he was on a DC Marvel crossover book, because he treated it like every other single freaking Deadpool crossover comic book we've ever received. But don't worry, this comic throws in every tired trope DC Comics have run into the ground as well. Awkward meta commentary on the Batman-Joker relationship. They must be in love, or Joker's in love with Batman or whatever. Deadpool suddenly falls in love with Batman because he's special, and Joker gets jealous enough to betray him, pumping him full of Joker toxin. That gives us the, you guessed it, Deadpool who laughs. Maybe the most overplayed trope in all of DC Comics. Could we not put a Venom symbiote on Batman? Or do something even remotely close to freaking original in this comic book? It was so frustrating, so many opportunities, but they went out there and played every tired, lame-ass Marvel and DC trope and threw them into one fucking comic book. And then comes the big plane reveal. Joker's got a Gotham-wide poison scheme where the only way to stop it is if Batman dies in the process. But because Deadpool is now hopelessly head over heels in love for Batman, he triggers the bomb himself, takes the hit, and accidentally saves Batman. Basically a cut and paste ending of every Wolverine Deadpool crossover comic ever. There is a funny line, admittedly, from the Joker when this happens, that elevates the moment from pure dog shit, but not much. And then, of course, Batman doesn't take Deadpool to jail for aiding and abetting the Joker, because let's let bygones be bygones. I will give the plot itself a 1 out of 5. There are a bunch of backups because for $7, they can't just give you a 28-page comic book. They got to throw a bunch of other stuff in there that are basically half-baked ideas. The one that had the most promise going in, at least I thought, was Captain America and Wonder Woman from Chip Zdarsky and Terry Dodson. The idea that Captain America would need Wonder Woman to show up and stop him from murdering Adolf Hitler is pretty darn ridiculous. Captain America wouldn't do that. He's actually the most aspirational hero in the entire Marvel universe. I like Terry Dodson, and he certainly does a fine job on Wonder Woman in this comic book, but it almost looks like, with 3 days to go, Marvel was like, holy fuck, we forgot to hire an artist, and he had to rush through the entire thing. I'm surprised that Marvel made a book where Captain America had to be stopped from murdering somebody, but then I realized, oh yes, this is a Canadian socialist writing Captain America. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Then we had a Jeff the Land Shark in Crypto crossover from Kelly Thompson and Guru Hero. This is basically nothing. It's Jeff the Land Shark in Crypto playing beach volleyball or something like that. And I guess I had to pay for that. Then we got Daredevil and Green Arrow from Kevin Smith and Adam Kubert. This probably comes the closest to any of these backups delivering anything worth your time and money. Adam Kubert is awesome as always. Kevin Smith has certainly made his mark when it comes to Green Arrow and Daredevil. Seeing the two kind of team up, I think has a lot of potential long term if they wanted to do something like this. There are some modern Kevin Smithisms, but I was able to overlook it. It is relatively short, but not nearly as short as the Rocket Raccoon and Green Lantern crossover, which I think is 3 pages in total. Al Ewing and Dyke Ruin. Al Ewing apparently doesn't understand the Green Lantern Corps or rings at all. For some reason, they decide that they're going to do a cultural exchange, and Hal Jordan willingly gives up his Green Lantern ring and puts it on Rocket Raccoon, which is impossible because the ring chooses the wielder, and you have to be a character of great will, which Rocket Raccoon is not. Surprisingly, he decides to use the ring for nefarious purposes, specifically a casino heist. Al Ewing, being a Green Lantern writer, should know that the heist would be thwarted by the ring itself. It wouldn't allow Rocket Raccoon to do that. He certainly doesn't have the willpower to override a Green Lantern ring. And then the final page reveal is that over on the Marvel side of the universe, Hal Jordan has gone full parallax and has the Infinity Gauntlet. There are a couple of funny jokes, even if the story couldn't actually happen. The low point of the comic book probably is the Old Man Logan and Batman The Dark Knight Returns crossover from Frank Miller. Obviously, Frank Miller is a legend. He is not what he once was as a writer or an artist. I'll be completely honest, I don't even know what happened in this story. It was that illogical. In the art, the less said about it, the better. He's a legend. I think no less of him because of this story, but it was really, really bad. And then finally, we got a story called Logo, which is a Logan Lobo amalgam type character from Ryan North and Ryan Stegman. And I think he beats like an Ultron character up or something like that. It looks really good. It looks like Ryan Stegman actually cared about this book, which was a massive turnaround compared to what he's been doing in X-Men. The backups, I think almost across the board, are terrible, and I'll give it a 1 out of 5 overall. I'm very excited that Marvel and DC are crossing over for the first time in 20 years, but Marvel should have put somebody worth a damn as the writer on the book and not wasted Greg Capullo's art in this case. The backups are almost all a disappointment. I'll give the book a 3.5 out of 10 overall, an enormous fail. I'm definitely interested to hear what you guys think. Were you a little bit more kind to the book, more excited? Did you receive it better than I? Because this is definitely not what I was hoping for, and I don't think this comes even close to $7. And in my mind, this was a pure cash grab, and you can see all the corners Marvel cut in the process. You know, shoddy art that wasn't finished in a lot of the backup stories, not putting a top tier writer on the book to save money, not really doing anything original. So there's no overtime put in this book. Everybody phoned in the effort, and I find it quite disappointing. But this is par for the course for 2025. DC has been obliterating, just slaughtering Marvel across the board when it comes to quality. If you'd like to see a recap of that with our good friend Jim from Weird Science, definitely check out this video right here. DC is kicking Marvel's ass in 2025. I do appreciate the time. And remember to keep thinking critical.